"You'll never be a good husband," she screamed at my cousin's party. I didn't fight back. I just walked away. She realized she'd made its biggest mistake when her secret lover threw her out. And she came crawling back. "You are never going to be a decent husband. I have no intention of marrying you," my girlfriend shrieked so everyone could hear. I kept my mouth shut. I simply stared at her for a moment, then turned around and exited. Later that evening, a text from her best friend popped up on my screen. "Do you have any idea what went down after you left? I am 29 years old, and until about 3 weeks ago, I was convinced my future was set in stone. Sarah and I had been a couple for nearly 4 years. Our story began at a mutual friend's birthday celebration. The connection was instant, and within 6 months, we were sharing an apartment. She worked as a paralegal at a mid-sized firm in the city center, while I handled logistics management. We weren't wealthy, but we lived comfortably. Marriage was a constant topic for us. We had even spent time browsing rings last Christmas. She had admired a sophisticated sapphire piece at a local jeweler, and I had secretly returned 2 days later to discuss payment plans. The evening everything shattered was meant to be a celebration. My cousin Marcus was hosting an engagement party at his suburban home. It was a beautiful place with a manicured garden and about 40 guests in attendance. Sarah had been acting strangely all week, cold and irritable, but I assumed it was just pressure from her job. She'd mentioned her supervisor was being difficult about deadlines, resulting in her staying at the office until late several nights that week. I'd even offered to drop off dinner during one of those late shifts, but she declined, saying she'd just grab a quick bite from the deli downstairs. We arrived at the party around 7 p.m. The atmosphere was lively, with music echoing across the patio and groups of people laughing in the living room. I was chatting with Marcus and a few buddies near the kitchen when Sarah approached me, glass in hand. Her face was flushed, and it was obvious she'd already finished a few drinks. "We need to have a word," she said, her voice loud and public. Marcus stopped talking and looked over. "Sure, what's on your mind?" I replied calmly, trying to keep the situation under control. "I'm serious. We need to talk about where we stand." I looked around. People were starting to stare. Marcus's fiancée, Jennifer, was watching us from the other side of the room with a look of concern. "Okay, let's step outside," I suggested. "No," she barked, her volume increasing. "I'm done pretending. Honestly, I don't think we work anymore." My heart sank. The music suddenly felt deafening. "Sarah, this isn't the right time or place. You would never be a good husband. I'm not going to marry you." The entire house went silent. Every eye was on us. I felt the heat rise in my face and my fists tightened, but I kept my expression blank. I looked at her for a long time, trying to discern if this was the alcohol talking or her true feelings. Her gaze was icy, almost malicious, as if she were waiting for me to explode. I didn't even recognize the woman standing there. Without saying a word, I turned, grabbed my coat from a chair, and walked out. Behind me, I heard someone whisper, "What just happened?" followed by the low hum of gossiping voices. I drove home in total silence, no radio, no calls, just the sound of my breathing and the road. My hands were trembling on the wheel. Back at the apartment, I sat on the sofa in the dark for an hour, just staring at the shadows on the wall. I kept replaying the scene, wondering what I had missed or what I had done to deserve that. Then, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Rachel, Sarah's closest friend since college. "Do you even know what happened after you left?" I stared at the screen before replying. "What?" The typing dots appeared instantly. "Can I call you?" "Yeah." The phone rang 5 seconds later. "Hey," Rachel said, her voice sounding like she'd been crying. "I don't know how to tell you this, but you deserve to know. After you walked out, Sarah had a complete breakdown. She started sobbing, saying she didn't mean it and that she was just overwhelmed. But that isn't the worst of it." "What's the worst part?" I asked, my voice feeling empty. Rachel hesitated. I could hear the party noise in her background. "Marcus's brother, Jake, was there. You know him, right?" I did. Jake was Marcus's younger brother, about 26, working in finance. He always wore expensive clothes and bragged too much about his investments and his gym progress. "Yeah, I know him. Sarah has been seeing him behind your back for at least 2 months." I felt like the floor had vanished. The room spun. What? I didn't know until tonight, I swear. After you left, Jake went over to Sarah to comfort her. He put his arm around her, and she leaned into him like they were a couple. It wasn't a friend thing. Then I overheard him whisper, "You said you'd end it cleanly." This wasn't the deal. That's when I realized. I confronted her in the restroom 20 minutes ago, and she confessed everything. I couldn't respond. My mind was trying to process the betrayal, but it felt like a nightmare. She said it started at a corporate event in September where Jake was a guest. Rachel continued. They crossed paths, started talking, and it escalated. She tried to act like it was an accident, but 2 months of cheating is a deliberate choice. Is she still there? I finally whispered. Yeah, she's still at the party playing the victim. Some people are feeling sorry for her, but most people are just uncomfortable. Jennifer is furious. I think she wants Sarah out of the house. Thanks for telling me, I said, my voice cracking. What will you do? I don't know yet. We hung up, and I sat in the darkness for another hour. Then, something shifted. My head cleared. I opened my laptop and logged into our joint bank account, the one we used for bills. I started reviewing the transaction history. At first, it looked normal: rent, power, food. Then I saw things that didn't fit. A charge for $180 at Provisions, a fancy downtown restaurant I'd never visited. Another for $210 3 weeks later. Then, a $340 hotel bill from a boutique spot just minutes from our home. Sarah had told me she was at a conference in Chicago that weekend. I took screenshots of all 11 suspicious charges. Asterisk, I didn't get a wink of sleep. I just sat there, staring at the evidence of every lie she'd told me. Every late night at the office and every tired weekend suddenly made sense. Around 6 a.m., the door clicked open. Sarah walked in quietly, still in her party dress. She looked drained. I was waiting at the kitchen table with my laptop and a cold cup of coffee. She stopped dead when she saw me. "We need to talk," I said. She dropped her bag and crossed her arms. "I know last night was a disaster. I was drunk and I didn't mean. How long have you been sleeping with Jake?" Her face turned ghost white. "What? Don't lie." "Rachel told me everything, and I have the bank records right here." I turned the screen toward her. She stared at the highlighted charges, her mouth hanging open. Then her posture collapsed. "It just happened. It wasn't a plan. 2 months isn't an accident, Sarah. It's a choice you made every single day." I was confused, she sobbed. "We've been together so long, and I started wondering if this was it. Everything felt so routine." Jake made me feel excited again. "So you humiliated me in front of 40 people because you were bored." I spent 4 years building a life with someone who was looking for an upgrade behind my back. I was checking finance options for an engagement ring while you were using our shared money for hotels with my cousin's brother. She started crying harder, but it felt like a performance. "I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake. Can we please just discuss this?" "There's nothing left to discuss. I want you out by the end of the week. This is my home too. The lease is in my name, Sarah. You moved in a year after I did. Check the contract." She looked at me as if I'd struck her. "You're really kicking me out. You kicked us to the curb the moment you slept with Jake." "I'm just making it official." She left the room without a word. I heard her door slam and her crying through the wall. I felt zero guilt. Asterisk. Sarah moved out 4 days later. She tried to claim furniture I'd bought years ago, but I had the digital receipts ready. The whole ordeal was cold and mechanical. Her parents arrived with a truck on Saturday. Her father wouldn't look at me, and her mother gave me a look of pity, as if I were the problem. I didn't bother explaining. Jake actually had the nerve to text me a 5-paragraph apology saying he respected me too much to let this ruin things with Marcus. I blocked him instantly. Marcus called me later. I heard the news. Jake told me his version, but I want the truth. I gave him every detail: the public insult, the affair, the bank records. Marcus was silent for a long time. "I'm so sorry, Nan. What he did was inexcusable." Jennifer already kicked Sarah out of the wedding party, and Jake is on a very short leash. He's no longer a groomsman, and he's banned from the reception. Asterisk. 2 weeks later, Sarah messaged me on Instagram. It was a long, desperate plea saying she'd made a massive error and that Jake wasn't who she thought he was. She claimed I was her real choice. I blocked her everywhere. A mutual friend, Tyler, told me the truth. Jake had been seeing another girl from his office named Amanda the whole time. Sarah found out, confronted him, and he told her she was just a fun fling and Amanda was his actual girlfriend. To top it off, Sarah got fired that same week for poor performance and a screaming match with her boss. She tried to get friends to talk me into taking her back, but they told her what she did was unforgivable. Asterisk, it's been 3 weeks. I feel lighter. The apartment is quiet, but it's mine. I've rearranged everything, tossed out her photos, and even got new bedding. I'm hitting the gym and reclaiming my life. Marcus and I are still tight. I'm still a groomsman in his wedding, but Jake won't be at the party. Sarah is now living with her parents and our way, unemployed and hiding in her childhood room. She posts sad quotes on social media, but I don't see them. I'm not ready to date, but I'm not bitter either. I'm just relieved. Relieved I didn't waste another 4 years or buy that sapphire ring. That moment at the party felt like the end of the world, but now I see it was a gift. She showed me her true self before I was legally tied to her forever. I dodged a bullet, and I walked away with my dignity. Asterisk, people asked if I confronted Jake. I didn't. He's not worth the breath. Sarah's apology was just desperation because her backup plan failed. And the ring. Never bought it. Please subscribe on this channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you in the next video.